guys, it's me, Halloween Dan, doing a really kind of impromptu video, to be honest with you, but it's one I've been thinking about for a while. We've seen everything now, more or less, that the stores are going to be bringing out, both to the UK and to the US. There's obviously been an awful lot more for the US and Canada side of the pond than there has been for ours. There's been a few sneaky little things here and there that the UK have sort of had that's quite exciting, and overall it's been a really good year. I think everyone agrees there's been an awful lot on offer. There's been a lot of props from a lot of different places, so we've seen some really new and interesting things come out this year, and I have to say I have enjoyed seeing the majority. There's been a few sort of low points. Luckily, they've been few and far between. Most of what's been available this year has been really, really good. So what I thought I would do now, after seeing everything that everyone has had to offer, more or less, is have a rundown of my top 10 animatronics and props for this year from everybody. I've never done this before, and it was actually a really hard list to bring together because usually I focus either on a top 8 or 10 for the UK, and I've done it for US before, but this is kind of everyone. These are the top 10 props. If there was no issue in me getting access to them, this is the list of props that I would buy. And also if money was no issue, which it always is. Sad times. Let's do this, guys. Let's try my hardest to break this down and let's go through this. But before we do, if you could hit that like and subscribe button and that notify bell, it would really help me out. I'm trying to get to 600 soon, so please help me out. And let's just do this. This was a really hard list to put together. As I've just said in the intro, there was so much this year. We have been spoiled rotten with awesome props. It was almost at that point where there were so many awesome props that were awesome on so many different levels that we were starting, and the whole community was starting to nitpick at things and be like, well, it could be less cool. And so because this was so hard to do, this list was so hard to put together, I'm not gonna lie, this list has changed and shifted and moved and had all kinds of things have come into it, come out of it. I've moved things around several times. So because of that, I had to put in some honorable mentions. So I'm gonna really rapidly try and blast through these. There's about 4, I think, things that I would have bought, potentially bought, that they've just not quite made the top 10. So let's do these. The first honourable mention goes to the 12-foot Wendigo prop from Party City. Now, I love this prop, and I'm so glad that this was the main Wendigo prop available this year, and we weren't relying on that crazy marsh monster thing that came out from Home Depot. This is our Wendigo. This is what Wendigo should look like, and the 12-foot aspect is awesome. I love 12-foot props. There are some 12-foot props on my top 10. But for me, a Wendigo doesn't make a lot of sense. For my personal horn, Wendigos are not a UK thing, they're an American thing. So it doesn't make an awful lot of sense for my horn in some respects. So, and part of me even questioned a little bit, like, did he need to be 12 foot? I'm not really sure. His action was limited. So of all the props that were out there, he was one of my favourite 12 foots, but just didn't quite make the grade. Then there was the 9-foot zombie groundbreaker prop from Lowe's. I really like this guy. I think he's a really awesome prop. But the only reason he's not made my top 10 is because if I were buying him, I wouldn't have any room for him. He's enormous. He's absolutely enormous. He takes up so much room. And for being so enormous, he is a really quite simplistic prop, but maybe just too simplistic. Like, he's only got one action, and that's moving the tombstone. He's then just a very big static prop, basically, with light up eyes and a light up lantern. It's all very cool. There's a lot going on with him, but he is just a little bit too basic, and he's a lot of money for just a big basic prop. Then we had a very cool prop, the THD 3000 from Home Depot. This was cool. And when I saw this, it did blow me away. That weird blinking eye, so awesome. Really, really liked the THD 3000. But like I said in that video, it wouldn't really be a prop for me. I don't have anything in my haunt that's robot themed. It wouldn't make sense to anything else. And to me, I like robots and stuff, but they don't necessarily say Halloween to me, like a weird blinking robot. So for that reason alone, I wouldn't buy it, but it makes my honourable mentions list because I think it's super, super cool. And the last honourable mention is a UK available one, and it might surprise a few people, and that is the punk rocker skeleton. Now, I love the punk rocker skeleton, and I'm not gonna lie, there's been several times in the last month or so where he's been available on Costco's website and I've nearly bought him. I'm not gonna pretend I haven't. And it might still happen. It might happen one day, which is why he's made my honourable mentions list, because I do appreciate this prop. It's an awesome prop. The only reason he's not reached into my top 10, and the only reason I haven't pulled the trigger and bought this thing, is because it's another musical, whimsical prop. And I'm just trying a little bit to diverge away from that. I've got banjo playing skeletons. I'm not sure I need a guitar playing skeleton as well. So as cool as he is with his cool phrases and his cool look and his weatherproof, big thing for the UK, he's just not fully reaching the criteria for me this year. Because let's face it, the competition has been massive this year. And so with the honourable mentions over, we jump into the top 10. And in at number 10 is the drop-down Scarecrow. Now, I think this is a simple prop, but an awesome prop. I've got a thing for scarecrows. I do. I like scarecrows. To me, again, it's harvest theme and all that sort of stuff. And the creepier the scarecrow, the better. And he's a pretty creepy looking scarecrow. But it's that action. It's the drop-down action that completely separates him from everything else. We've seen similar things before in other props, or they do that thing where they bring their arms together and all that kind of stuff. And they're cool. They're cool. But there's something about how it's up so high, it's like 9 foot, and then it's triggered, and it literally drops down to your level. There's something about that. If you didn't know it did that, it would freak you out. It would freak me out. I definitely know it would. In at number 9 is another prop from Party City, and it is Mad Monster Marlin. Now, I said it in that video where I looked at the Party City props. I love a classic monster. I love all the old school monsters, and I love Frankenstein's monster. And this is obviously meant to be Frankenstein's monster. He's pretty cool in every way. I love his just basic roaring action. I like the simplicity of the prop without it being too simple. It's moving its arms, it's got chains around its arms, it's roaring, it's got glowing yellow eyes. It's just cool enough. It's just got the right level of what this should be when you're talking about classic monster props. My only critique of it is that it's quite expensive, and maybe the hair. Maybe the hair just isn't quite right on this monster. I don't know why I've got this thing about the hair. It just doesn't... I know it's not Frankenstein's monster, but still, that maybe makes it too unlike Frankenstein's monster, if you know what I mean. I don't know. But either way, he's still pretty cool. And he's in at number 9. In at number 8 is the first of my spirit props for this year. This prop, I thought, was a pretty cool little prop. It was very simple. It was probably one of the ones that's been overshadowed by an awful lot of others. But the more I saw it, the more I liked it. And the more I thought this would be something I bought if it was available in the UK. And that was little Jack Carver. It's a simple prop. It's a very simple Scarecrow prop. But what I liked about it is, again, it's with this sort of harvesty Scarecrow kind of a theme. It's a weird little zombie boy who's holding this light-up jack-o'-lantern over his face, and then he pops it off his head, and he reveals this sort of gross zombie face where his nose is eaten away and his bits of his face are clearly eaten away. It's a cool little prop. And I think what I liked about it was, at first, you think, this is kind of family friendly, this, you know. I've got what looks like a cute little guy in his little farm outfit, and he's holding a pumpkin over his head. What could go wrong? And then next minute he pops it off, which in its own right, that action's quite scary. He's got this weird, gross little zombie face, which I thought, that's kind of cool. I think that would surprise anybody who hadn't seen him. So I liked it for that reason. My number 7 prop is a Lowe's prop. And guess what? It's a 12-foot prop. And guess what? It's a Scarecrow prop. That's right. It's the Lowe's 12-foot Scarecrow prop. I love this guy. I really do. I can't help myself. He might not do an awful lot. He might just have some very simplistic Scarecrow-esque phrases. But there's something about the look of this Scarecrow that's evil looking, is the only way I can put it. Apart from being a 12-foot prop, and you all know I love a 12-foot prop. It's just menacing looking. It's the eyes, I think. The eyes where they're just like the irises rather than the pupils, or the way that they're lit, it's just the irises of the eyes. That in itself makes this prop kind of eerie and spooky. The actual form of this face and everything, it's so well detailed. I love the costume. For a 12-foot prop, I think it's probably the best detailed 12-foot prop we've seen this year. It's so, so cool, and I love it. I really, really do. In at number 6 is the first of the props that I mentioned. Probably the only prop, it is the only prop on my list, that isn't from one of the mainstream stores. Because this is a Distortions Unlimited prop. Now, I love that 12-foot Reaper, and he's in my top 10 Reaper list. But the reality is, he'd probably just be a bit too much for my horn, and he'd also be way too expensive for me. So even if he was available, well, he is available in the UK technically, but he'd cost an absolute fortune to get here. And yeah, he's maybe just a bit too much for the horn that I have. But there is another Distortions prop that was released this year that ticks so many boxes for me, and that is the Pumpkin Witch. Now, this is a static prop. She doesn't do anything, but she is gross and cool. I love that warty pumpkin head. I love the gross sort of classic witch face of her. She just looks like a dirty old crone who's crept out of some crevice somewhere. She's holding that little shriveled flickering lantern, that jack-o'-lantern lantern, and she just looks like something from some creepy fairy tale. It looks like something from one of those Brothers Grimm fairy tales. You'd expect her to be creeping out of some little cavern or cave somewhere. She just looks spooky and eerie, and to me, the fact that she doesn't move, apart from you moving her into whatever position you want, kind of adds to her creepiness. She looks like she's about to pounce at you at any second. It's the look in the eye, the eyes, everything about it's so realistic and so well put together. And for that reason, she's made my top 10. In at number 5 is a prop that I kind of made fun of a couple of times, but actually the more I've seen it, the more I like it. And that is the Black Heart from Spirit. Everyone knows that when I first saw the stills, I called it the Punching Reaper, because it kind of, the still was like a Reaper doing this at a girl. And it just looked like he was punching her. We all now know that that is him drawing back a cloak. And I have to say, there's something about that action. He's got his head down and then he draws the cloak back, revealing this corpse. And then him sort of saying his Reaper things. The face mold on this is really cool too. On both of them. The woman looks so realistic that he's just revealed from behind his cloak. But the face mold of the actual Reaper himself is so cool. It's kind of got evil pointed in looking eyes. It's really, really menacing, and the things it's saying are really menacing too. I really, really like this prop, and this, for me, if I could walk into a spirit store, this would be one of the ones I was going to pick up off the shelf, without a doubt. In at number 4 is probably the only prop, well, it is the only prop that actually is available to me right now here in the UK. In fact, it just became available today, and that is the Costco Tomb Guardian mummy. Now, we've all spoken about this. When we first saw those images, everyone was blown away by this mummy. It is such a cool prop. It's 7 foot, it's got those creepy moving eyes. It's just a cool prop, and again, I love the classic monster thing. I love a classic monster. You can't go wrong with the classic monsters. And the fact that everything about this is great. It's weatherproof, it's glow in the dark. That's a feature I didn't realise about it at first, but it does. It glows in the dark, and if you put like a UV lamp on it. It really glows brightly. It's amazing. It's got these sort of loose bandages hanging down from it, which you can sort of arrange however you wish. I think it's an absolutely amazing prop. I really, really do. The only thing that's kind of putting me off buying it right at this minute, number one, it doesn't go with anything else that I have. But number two, it's £330. And for a prop, as good as it has a very basic movement, and I'm not sure it's worth £330. It's the only thing that's kind of putting me off right now. But other than that, it is an absolute masterpiece of a prop, and we here in the UK cannot believe it's been made available to us, to be quite honest with you. In at 3 is another Home Depot prop, and this time it's Predator of the Night. Now, people have kind of ummed and ahed about this, how good it is or not how good it is, I don't know. I like it. It's massive. It's everything I like in a prop. It's kind of gross bat creature with these huge wide wings. It's lit well. It's just screeching and making creepy bat monster noises. It's an awesome looking prop. It's moving its head and it's doing everything. Everything it just is creepy. It's got veiny wings and bony body. It's a gross, weird prop. And if you had that in your haunt, especially if you could mount it up high, it would be a mind-blowing piece in, I think, anyone's haunt. It just looks like something off the front cover of a rock and roll album. It really does, like Bat Out of Hell, you know what I mean? The only thing about it is, again, it's quite a simplistic prop, and I don't know whether I wanted it to do more, whether I wanted its wings to flap, or whether it needed LCD eyes. I don't know, maybe all those things would have taken away from it. But it might just be a little bit too simplistic, I'm not sure. But I still think it's really, really cool. In at number 2 is a 12-foot prop. And this time it comes from Party City again. Now, I'm quite surprised, even by myself, that this has reached so high up on my list. But I really like it. And it's the 12-foot Pumpkin Creeper. Now, Pumpkin Creep props, they've been around for a long time. Everyone's seen them. You can make them yourself if you really want to. But there's something about this 12-foot version that I like. It's quite simplistic, but cool. I like the fact it's 12 foot. That's number one. I like the pumpkin head itself. I like the fact that it moves, that it's moving its head. I like the creepy noises it's making. I like the flicker flame effect inside the creepy head. Even the costume, and the arms and the chest. It's all really well thought through and put together. And I haven't liked a 12-foot prop this much since we had the Home Depot Inferno pumpkin skeleton. I think I got that the right order. But I liked that prop when that first came out. And this is of a similar ilk. It hasn't got LCD eyes because it doesn't need them. It's a flicker flame pumpkin. But it's so cool. I really, really like it. I'm kind of surprised by myself that it's reached this high up on my list. But I was in the moment, guys. I was in the moment. And in at number 1, I'm sure it's probably not that much of a surprise for anybody. Because, of course, I am somewhat biased. Because, thanks to the amazing Chris, I own this prop. But number 1 is Home Depot's Lethal Lilly. Now, regardless, I am biased. Because, as most of you know, I own this prop now, thanks to Chris. But without that, I think she'd have still been my number 1 prop. We didn't see any footage or any imagery of her until almost the very end, until that initial launch of everything from Home Depot. And all I saw maybe a day or two before the footage came out was that still image of Lilly sort of stood in a swampy ground. And I'm not going to lie to you, when I first saw that, I didn't even think it was an animatronic. I thought it was a person. I genuinely did. I thought it was a person stood amongst the other props. And I was like, why have they just put a random witch woman in amongst all the props? And it was after a couple of seconds it took me to realise that it was actually an animatronic. That's how lifelike her face looked in those images. And then when we saw the footage, my mind was blown by how awesome of a prop this was. The movement of this thing, the realistic look of this thing, the costume is amazing. The movement of those eyes, those creepy moving eyes. And then the fact that she's a witch. I love witch props. I love anything to do with witches. She is, without a doubt, the best witch I think that's ever been made available. Just the technology that's gone into her head alone says that. But she just looks so good, so real. And I thought when she arrived I might be disappointed by her, that she wouldn't look as good in real life as she did in those videos. But I had nothing to fear. She is truly amazing, and I cannot wait to put her in my horn and see what people's reactions to her really are. So guys, that's it. This has been a longer video than normal, but I just wanted to let everyone know. Here's my top 10. I've gone through all the props that are available. There are so many I haven't mentioned at all that I really like. There are so many. There really hasn't been many that I haven't liked on some level, except for the clowns. Nearly everything I have liked in some way, shape or form, but this is just the ones that if I could easily get them, I would buy. So I hope you've liked my top 10. I hope you've agreed with at least some of the things in my top 10 list. And I'm sorry if I haven't mentioned anything that you would have put in a top 10. Like I say, this is just me. It's just my top 10. Don't worry about it if your favourite isn't on there. It doesn't mean it's not good. It just means that it isn't my favourite. That's all. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Keep it spooky. Bye.